Hey friends, welcome to week 7 of our spring art class. I'm looking forward to seeing you all in our Google Meets this week. Now, since we have a short week, we're going to be taking a little step away from our current unit and we are going to be doing something kind of fun. First, I have a question for you. Do you think that everybody sees everything in the same way? Do you think it's possible that some people see things a little bit differently than you? I want you to think about that a little bit as we look at the artwork we are going to use for inspiration today. Today, we are going to be looking at some artwork by a very famous artist named Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh is very famous because he saw things a little bit different from other people. Now, looking at this picture, what do you notice? Now, normally when you see a painting of a starry sky, it looks a little bit different, right? What did he do with his paintbrush to make it look that way? Do you think that maybe he used lots of little tiny lines when he was painting? Yeah. So now I'd like you to look at these two pictures next to each other. Do you think it's possible that maybe Vincent van Gogh saw something like this when he painted his painting? Yeah. So one of the reasons this artist is so famous is because he has all these little tiny brush strokes. And an art term for those little brush strokes is segmented lines. Say segmented lines. We're going to practice making an entire picture with those segmented lines. It's a little challenging, but it's actually pretty fun. It would just be boring if we were recreating the same thing that he made because lots of other artists have done it too. So we are going to put our own twist on Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh today. Many artists have been inspired by this painting and created their own artwork. Some of them are really silly too. Hey guys, so this is the virtual tour of Starry Night. A digital artist made a 3D digital space where you can explore. And the cool thing about this video that I included is you can drag it and you can look around. So I included the link. And it's really cool to look around. I don't know if anybody has a virtual headset, which I don't because that's super fancy. But if you do, this would be a really cool thing to explore with a VR headset. Either way, I think it's super cool just watching it on YouTube and dragging it around with my mouse. If you want to play with this after class, I included a link to this virtual tour so you can go and check it out. Once again this week, we will be using the art materials that I left for you guys at your school. If you didn't get a chance to pick those up, that's okay. You can still use crayons or colored pencils to do something very similar. If you still don't have any art materials and can't draw with any of them, skip to the very end of this video and I will show you how to do this in Seesaw. Now don't forget to look at your objectives, which I say at the very end also. The first part of this picture is going to be something we do together. The second part will be something you do on your own so that you can make your artwork unique and special to you. We're going to start with our oil pastels, or crayons, if that's what you have. Even if you don't have crayons, colored pencils will work just fine. I'm going to start with some white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 5 or 6 little dots with my white pastel. Now you probably can't really see it on the screen, and that's okay. When you're doing it on your paper, you should be able to see it pretty well. Now that I've drawn 5 or 6 white dots, I'm going to take a yellow pastel and I'm going to surround my white dots with yellow. That means I'm going to make a circle around them. I'm going to do it over and over again. All right? All right, next I'm going to find my orange pastel. And I'm going to do the same thing. Surrounding all of my yellow dots with orange. Now that this step is done, I am going to add a little bit more yellow. Mix it all together because I think it looks kind of cool when they blend. And I'm ready for my segmented lines. So for my segmented lines, I'm going to start with my white pastel again. And I'm going to just do little tiny lines all over my paper. It doesn't really matter where. I'm just going to use them to segment, to surround my other pictures or circles. Then I'm going to grab a light blue, or the lightest blue you can find. If you don't have a light blue, you could just use a regular blue. I'm going to start doing little segmented lines. Now, are these long lines? No. These are short little segmented lines. I'm going to do a bunch right around all of my circles. Now, if you want to add a moon too, you can do that. I forgot about that part, so I can add myself a moon really quick. Start with my white, surround it with the yellow, surround it with some orange, and now I'm ready. All right, so I'm going to keep surrounding all of my circles with little segmented lines. Once I've surrounded all of my shapes with segmented lines, I'm going to go in and add some more to the rest of my page. I can even add a little spiral here and there because sometimes Vincent van Gogh has little spirals in his work. I think those are really cool. But mine won't look like his because they're in different places. Now that I've filled my whole page with little lines, I'm going to grab a darker blue if I can find one. And first, I'll surround my circle line, my light blue circles with some dark blue using those segmented lines. Then I'll just start filling the rest of my page with a bunch of little segmented lines. If you want at this point, you can keep adding dark blue, or you can go in and add a little bit more white now that more of your page is full. I think I'll add a couple little tiny yellow lines here and there too, because in his artwork, the yellow didn't just stay where the little stars were. Now that I've filled my entire page with segmented lines, I'm ready to start thinking about my details. Just like how these artists that I showed you created their own takes on Starry Night, I want you to think about how you can make this picture your own. Here's some pictures of things that we have around us that we can use for inspiration. For this next step, I'm going to use darker colors because it's almost going to be like the silhouettes my big kids will remember that we did earlier this year. I'm just going to use some dark colors. You can use whichever ones you would like. Now, you guys know me. I love yucca plants. So I am going to start by drawing a yucca plant down here. And just like with my silhouettes, I'm going to completely color it in. Add my little stalk for my yucca flowers. For this part, you draw your own picture on the bottom. All I'm looking for is that you're completely coloring it and using darker colors than we used before. You can draw whatever you want. It does not have to be the same thing as me. If you want to do something similar, that's okay too. Now, something cool that you may have noticed about oil pastels is that if you smudge them, they kind of blend together. So if you want to blend some of these little areas together, you can definitely do that. If you use your fingers, they get really dirty. So using a tissue might be better. I like using my fingers though, so it is up to you guys. Just make sure you wash your hands after you do this. That way you don't get the rest of your artwork dirty. Now we're ready for the painting part. So remember, when you're filling your cup for your watercolors, only fill it up halfway. Because if you fill it up all the way to the top, it'll spill really easy. Now, remember, I have some rules about how you use your watercolors. When you're using your brush, do you smush it on the bottom of the cup? No. Gently rinse it. Do you hear anything? Not really, because I'm being gentle. Now, you guys remember my other rule. If I'm mixing it like this, you guys see the water going everywhere? Now, if this was dirty paint water, not only would this be all over my stuff, it would also be all over my beautiful artwork. So when you're rinsing your brush, just do it gently. All right? Now, another thing people do when they get really excited, they'll get into the dirty paint water and go like this. Now, again, if that was dirty paint water, it would be all over my room and on my device, which is not good because that could break it. And it could ruin my art too. So, instead of doing that, when you're rinsing your brush, go gently and then wipe it gently on the edge. It's not noisy at all, right? Now, make sure you keep your water far away from your device so that it doesn't spill. I'm keeping mine on a separate table. That way my computer is safe. You might want to do this part away from your computer. That way you can make sure you're doing it in a safe way. Now, another thing. If I'm changing colors, should I just go into one color and then go into another one right away? No, I need to use one color, paint with it, rinse my brush in the water, and then go to a new color. Because you guys can tell, my little girl got into my paints. And you guys see how my yellow's all yucky now? That's because she didn't rinse her brush between the green and the yellow. And now the yellow is super icky. So make sure you're keeping your watercolors nice because these are the ones we're going to use all year. Now, for me today, I'm only going to prep my blue paint and maybe a little bit of the purple. If you want to use the other colors, you can. I just like the blue and the purple for this painting in particular. So I'm going to get my water. And just like before, I'm going to prep my painting by putting a couple drops in the colors that I plan to use. That way they're ready for when I start. Just like before, I'm going to use my wet on wet watercolor technique. So I'm going to take my brush just with water and put a puddle of water on my paper. Then I'm going to take some of my blue, start adding it. If you want to add some purple too, you can, or whatever colors you want. I'm just going to stick with blue and purple because I want mine to kind of look like the original. Remember, this is your artwork though, so it does not have to look the same as mine or Vincent van Gogh's. If your paint doesn't want to spread, add more water. So, for example, if I'm adding my paint and it doesn't really want to go any further, I'll just get some more water on my brush and add it to the paper. See how it's spreading now? I'm making my outside edges a little darker than the inside edges so that it looks like the stars are glowing in the middle of the paper. You don't have to do this. This is just an idea. But it's also a great way to include that value that we've been learning about. Make sure to try to fill in your whole paper. That way all of your little white spaces that don't have your pastel will get filled with color and it'll look like it's more complete. Here's your objectives. Number 1, I can draw at least 5 small circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and surround them with segmented lines. That's these little ones. Filling the entire page. Number 2, I can add at least 5 of my own details at the bottom of the page to make it my own unique artwork. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. En español, número 1. Yo puedo dibujar al menos 5 círculos pequeños y rodearlos con líneas segmentadas, llegando toda la página. Número 2. Yo puedo agregar al menos 5 de mis propios detalles en la parte inferior de la página, que sea mi propia obra de arte única. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so if you don't have any art materials at all, you can use Seesaw. So just like with my value lesson for Seesaw, we're going to click these 3 little dots and we're going to click the little button that says background. Remember, if you need to pause at any point, you can. Now I get to pick what color I want my background to be. Now you can pick whichever one you want. I think I'm going to click this one that goes from dark blue to light blue with value because I think it'll look pretty cool with this particular painting. All right, so with this one, we're going to start with a tool. If you want to use the glow tool for this, you can. And I'm going to put some little dots, some little white dots in different places on my page. I think I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if you want to do a moon, you can. Maybe I'll just turn this one into a moon. It's almost like 2 backward letter C's right next to each other. All right. Now I'm going to use a different tool from my glow tool for a bit. I think I'm going to use the highlighter tool for this one. And I'm going to grab some yellow. We're going to do some crazy circles around our little stars that we made. And I think this tool is a little bit big, so after I do this, I think I'm going to make it a little bit smaller for my segmented lines. If you accidentally go over your white spots, that's okay. It's not a big deal. That's what I'm doing. All right, now that I've surrounded all of my stars and my moon, I'm going to change my tool so it's a little smaller. And I'm going to do a few more lines around these. Again, they're not going to be perfect. Don't worry about it. Now that I've done this, I'm ready to grab some orange. So I'm going to change my color to orange over here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to surround all of these circles, or do more circles around them, with some orange. Now I'm ready to start with my blues. I'm going to get a light blue. And we're going to do those segmented lines. So I'm going to click, 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 and do a bunch of little segmented lines around all of my other shapes. This might take a little while, that's all right. And you can do these in different sizes. You can make it a little bit bigger for some of your lines too. I think that makes it a little bit more interesting when you use different pen sizes. I'm just going to fill a bunch of my page with those lines now. Now I think I'll make my blue a little darker and do the same thing. I'll move my camera over too so I can do art over here. I'm not just scribbling, I'm clicking and then letting go. Now that I've filled my entire sky, I am ready to add my foreground, which is the thing that's close to us, right? So this is where you get to be creative. You could add whatever you want, but remember, with digital art, it's much easier to color the inside of the shape first before you do the outside. So I'm going to go back to my regular pen tool. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to do my big shapes